All right, I'm going to follow the new agenda for tonight. It's slightly different. All right, good evening and welcome to the January 4th, 2023 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Stephen Spur and I am Chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channel, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. Please note that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system here at the dais and return it after the meeting. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. He will advise board members on matters of law and is a key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Stephanie Sulios is a city employee and the zoning board secretary. Ms. Sulios assists applicants with the preparation of their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Ms. Sulios also does not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. We will be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. We generally hear the applications in the order they are listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some applications are too complex to be heard within that time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. Board members may then ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board professionals and board members have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions themselves. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the application. This opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the interested public have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where board members will discuss the application and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in the discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If an application requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your application to another date and it will not be decided during this meeting. Krista Anderson, the city zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will necessitate additional follow-up from zoning and other city staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the application. You hear a special meeting this evening, which is our reorganization, so bear with us as we go through a couple of procedural items. When we do conclude the reorganization, appointment of our board professionals, we're going to invite you to come up to the podium and just help us understand if you think you can reasonably complete your application in 30 minutes, and if you have any professionals with you this evening. So hang tight, enjoy the show. First up, I don't believe we have Jay in the audience with us here. Unfortunately, we have a new board member that we were hopefully going to appoint, but the memo, I guess, didn't reach him, so we'll look forward to holding that for another meeting, but are grateful for the attendance of the board otherwise. So with that, we can move to the roll call.
Sure. Mr. Spur?
Here.
Mr. Steiner?
Here.
Ms. Newell? Here. Mr. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz?
Here.
Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager?
Here.
And as Mr. Spur said, Jay Feskins is not here this evening. Mr. Yuko?
Here.
Oh, sorry. You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Excellent. If you'll please rise with me and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Okay. On to the reorganization. Our secretary will lead the beginning of this, and then I'll pick it up, or the chair will pick it up from there.
Okay. Do we have a nomination for a chairperson?
May I?
Sure.
We've had very successful leadership in the past few years with our current chair, and it would be my honor and privilege to once again nominate Steve Spur as chair.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Can we do a roll call vote? Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager? Yes. The motion carries. Are there any other nominations?
Great. We move now to vice chair. We'll open nominations, and I'd like to begin that with nominating Joe Steiner, who's done an able job in this past year, stepping in an awful lot. I apologize for my travel schedule this year, but he's done a great job, been even-keeled throughout, offered useful perspective, and has really, leveraged his experience in the city, but also on the zoning board. So I'm pleased to nominate him. I don't believe there's any other nominations. Do we have a motion for Joe Steiner to serve as our vice chair for this year?
Happy to make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Happy to second.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Spur?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager? Yes. And Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Excellent. I'll invite nominations now for board secretary. Mr. Lookitz.
I would like to nominate Stephanie Sulios for board secretary. I know she has big shoes to fill, but so far so great. So I'm sure we're going to continue to get excellent support from her, and I wholeheartedly nominate her for board secretary.
Excellent. We have a motion for
I
Stephanie
move
to
that
serve
we
as
appoint Stephanie Sulios as secretary.
Thank you, Dana. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen.
Okay. Mr. Spur?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
And Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Excellent. Before we move to professional appointments, just to make Andy squirm in his seat a little bit longer, I did want to note two things. Firstly, that David Mullen, Diana Sager, and Claire Toth had been reappointed, so welcome back. Many happy years ahead of you all. And then secondly, you'll notice that the voting order has shifted slightly, where Tom Yuko generously has offered to remain on the board after his many years of distinguished service. He'll be moving into an alternate role, so hopefully it means more time off from him, only being called in as necessary. And Wally Gonzalez will be stepping up into a full seat. So you'll see seats will change and voting order will swap slightly, but all good, no change to board composition. Thank you, Wally, and thank you, Tom. All right, on to the big important show here, which is professional appointments. Just to set some context, the board goes out in the fall timeframe to solicit interest in three appointments, professional appointments: board attorney, our board engineers, and the board planners. We received a number of interests for each of those positions. The board, through a deliberative session and our own kind of independent study of the proposals that were submitted, identified who we believe to be the best and most suitable professionals to serve the board in the year to come. So we'll begin with the board attorney, and we had identified Davison, Eastman, Munoz, and Payon. We pronounce that correctly? Yeah, more or less. We don't appoint a particular individual, we appoint a firm. We have Andy Ball, who has been serving as our board attorney for, I guess, a number of years now, I would say, 2 years? Couple of years now. Before him, Dennis Galvin, but it was the board's judgment that continuing with that firm would be most suitable for the board. So unless there's any questions, I'd ask for a motion to approve Davison, Eastman, Munoz, and Peon as our board attorney.
Mr. Chairman, we have a resolution in front of us. Everyone should have seen one on the dais, which is the formal resolution tonight that I would be pleased to move, which basically, after all the whereases, does resolve to that the chairman is authorized and directed to sign the agreement with Davison, Eastman, Munoz, Peon, PA, from Freehold as described in this resolution, and that they will comply with the requirements of NJ 10:5-31, et cetera, affirmative action and business registration, and all the city insurance requirements. And I would move that resolution.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Claire.
Okay. Mr. Spur?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you all.
Welcome back. As with the attorneys, we similarly appoint a firm for engineering services. We've been served ably by Colliers and Mazer before them. We're grateful that Dipti here with us tonight and in previous meetings will be serving the board as their schedule allows, but we expect most twice a month. So with that, the board again examined the applications we had received and believed that continuing our relationship with Colliers was most appropriate and would best serve our needs and the needs of the applicants that come before us. So with that, do I have a motion to approve Colliers Engineering and Design to serve as the board engineer for 2023? Thank you, Liz. A second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Mr. Spur?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Excellent. And rounding out, thanks, Dipti. Rounding out our triumvirate of professional appointments would be the board planner. Burgess Associates is a well-known quantity here in Summit, has been for many years, has certainly been here at the zoning board. Ed's got a pretty good gig. He's not here tonight, but I did have an opportunity to speak with him, told him of the appointments. I'd say by volume, most of the applications don't require planning review, but for some of them, we certainly need his advice and his expertise and his firm. So the board again had reviewed the applications for board planner and had determined that Burgess Associates was the most appropriate professional to continue in that role. Do I have a motion to approve Burgess Associates as the board planner for 2023?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to heap all this praise on Ed and Burgess, but he's not here.
Save
I'll
that
just,
for another day.
yes, I'll go through the motion to renominate them as planners.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen.
Okay. Mr. Spur?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
And Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, everyone, for your patience. We'll now move on to the public hearings component of the meeting. We're going to do that later in
Okay, you wanna
with
kill
the
it for
resolution, so hang on to it.
Okay.
We'll move now to public hearings. What I'll ask you to do first is I'll call you by application. You can just estimate how much time you think it's going to take. We encourage 30 minutes, but understand some applications take longer than that. And then just help identify any professionals that may be with you this evening. So maybe, Joe, you want to take actually the first one.
Yeah, okay. The first one is 29 Plymouth Road, the Paulison. you could just tell us who you have with you, and
My very able architect is Rosa, and Pete Rosen is the engineer.
and do you think you can do this in 30 minutes?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
And my name's
We'll be getting to
Nancy
you shortly.
Pardon?
We'll be getting to you shortly. We're going to check in.
Yep, you can go
please.
back.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Next on the list of hearings is 22 Crescent Avenue. Just step up for a moment and your
Hi,
name?
my name is Inigo, I'm the homeowner, and I have the architect, Prisco Tarquinio, and John is the civil engineer.
Okay, excellent. Do you think you can complete the application in 30 minutes?
I would hope so.
Excellent, good answer. And then third will be 58 Hobart Avenue.
Hi, my name is Chris Mazza. I'm the homeowner.
Hi, Chris.
Hi,
Do you have any
Brian.
professionals with you this evening?
Yeah, we have Robert Emmer,
Okay,
our architect.
architect, and what do you think? 30 minutes sound about right?
Most definitely.
Excellent, all right. With that then, as my first official act as chair, I'm going to recuse myself. And Joe's going to step in to help guide 29 Plymouth. And I'll be out
Okay,
in
so if the
lobby.
Polisons would like to come forward with your experts. No, I'm going to stay right where I am.
I'll leave my stuff there.
He's just going to have to shout at me.
That works.
All right, let's give David a minute to put his laptop together. It's got to fit in there somewhere, right? All right, Mrs. Paulson, our attorney was going to swear you in at this point.
You could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Nancy Allison, P as in Peter, O-L-I-S as in Stan, I-N.
Thank you.
2019 Summit.
Okay, if you would please explain to us what it is, and this is a carryover from another hearing and a change in the application. So if you could give us an overview of just what it is you're asking for, from us this evening.
Well, we're hopefully going to resolve some of the site issues.
And could you move the,
that were discovered.
the
Okay, I
mic?
think you have to move the mic closer to her because,
Yes, that makes sense.
and we're going to ask you to
Okay.
speak up a little bit. Thank you.
We're hopefully going to resolve some of the issues on our site that were discovered the last time that we were here. We were originally going to do a small structure change to our house to make a bigger master bedroom, but since the last time we met, we've changed that anyway. We're just going to do renovations in the house. But we still have these things we have to resolve in order to do so. Correct? Okay. So that's really ballpark. There was a lot of discovery made on our property since 2002, the last time we did renovations, or with David. He was our architect at that
Okay,
time, too.
well,
David Rosen.
okay, are there any questions from any members, board members for the applicant? Professionals? Public? Anyone from the public have a
One
question?
question. just-
Yes.
Yes.
There was a thing in Krista's memo about the existing patio and the prior approval. Was that done in 2021 or was that earlier
No.
than that? Okay, I thought it was a typo, so.
It was 21.
What?
It's 21?
No,
Or
2001.
It is a typo, okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, good. I thought it was 21. Okay. Okay, no other, so your first witness, I'm assuming, is Mr. Rosen?
Yes.
David?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Dave Rosen, R-O-S-E-N, partner at Rosen Philly Conway.
Thank you. You've appeared before us a number of times. Any
Yes.
changes to your credentials since the last time you appeared?
No.
I assume the board would like to accept you once again.
I'm assuming your license renewed yesterday? No?
We sent a check, so I assume that
Okay. David, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. 29 Plymouth Road, Michael and Nancy Pollison. This was an application that initially came up in last year, where there was an application for a single variance for floor area ratio to take the house from 3 bedrooms and 2 baths to 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. As Nancy just mentioned, that project has been set aside so that that's not part of this application anymore. That was just for a single floor area ratio variance because the property is somewhat undersized. But in the process of applying for that one variance, a whole lot of miscellaneous nonconformances were discovered on the property. And so we are here in order to try and resolve all of those. What we are proposing, and bear with me, this is going to be a little bit dull, but I'll try and make it as palatable as possible for everybody. We are changing a whole number of things because there are 6 accessory structures which have various elements of nonconformance within them. I'll get into that in a second. But I just wanted to say that if this was a normal R15, a normal lot in the R15 zone, none of these variances would be needed. It is the fact that this property is 10,500 square feet instead of 15,000, so it's about 2/3 the size that it's supposed to be, that cause a whole range of these variances. Now, when I make that assumption, I'm also assuming that the lot, which is 75 feet wide, would be the required 90 feet wide. It would be the 15,000 square feet overall. So the kinds of variances that we have on building coverage, lot coverage, floor area ratio would all be compliant. And I'm assuming that the setbacks, just assuming that if the property was, the house was in roughly the same place and the property just got to 90 feet wide equally on both sides and so on, it's easy for everything to be compliant. Okay, so, let me just get my mouse one second. So I'm going to go through a number of things here. This is a photo of the front of the house, and just for a sense of comfort and so on, this is on the side on Plymouth Road. This is completely unchanged, and none of the items that would require variances are visible from the front. The only one that could be, perhaps, is that there is a path on the right side of the house, which we'll get to, but you can't really see it from the front. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, usually I would start with Krista Anderson's memo and list the variances, but I wanted to put it into perhaps a little bit more comprehensible form by going through the narrative and just covering that. So this narrative is the same as what you have. There were slight highlights, but they don't seem to show up too well here. It's a slight light green in there. Anyhow, Pollison Residence, 29 Plymouth Road, project narrative. And this property is a through lot. There are very few of these, but this whole side of the block on Plymouth Road, these are through lots. That means that there's a front on Plymouth and there's a rear yard on Ashland Road. Because of that, because the rear yard faces a street, there are all kinds of other special conditions that apply to these lots on this side of the street that don't apply to other lots in the R15 zone. So just moving down to the second paragraph here, well, actually, just from the first, I mentioned most of this, but I do want to mention that this yard is completely fenced and well screened from adjacent neighbors. So the fencing wraps around the house on the rear and the 2 sides from the house back. So in the front yard on Plymouth, there's no fences, but going farther back, there are. And this block from the Ashland Road side is unique in Summit in that essentially every house has a fence along the full length if you're coming say from New Providence into Summit, on your right, all of those houses on this block are fenced in. So you can't see these rear yards. So they're not really like front yards. They really are more like regular rear yards. And in addition to that, both sides of this property, particularly the side that's to the west, and we'll get into that, is really well screened. The reason that's important is that there's a patio on that side, and so there's no infringement on the enjoyment of that neighbor because of the proximity of the Polison's patio. So we had done a project together a little over 20 years ago, and as you mentioned, 2001 was the correct date on that. So, as I mentioned, this past year in 2022, we applied for a variance for a single variance for a project that we're no longer doing. But when all these things were discovered, we had to address them. So that's what we're doing, to bring the property into toward conformance and actually eliminating a lot of the variances. So as it says here, our plan is to do several things here. I'll get into that in a second. I wanted to mention these 6 non-conforming elements. There's the driveway, there is the patio, there's a shed, there's a garbage can enclosure, there's a walkway that I just briefly mentioned on the side of the house, and there's a fence. Most of
Can I
the...
ask you about those? Just like
Yes.
all of those elements, were they part of the previous project in 2001? Or did those come into being some intervening time?
There are...
A couple.
The wall, I'll just in reverse order. The fence was there. The fence was there before they bought the property, but just in regular property maintenance, they have replaced that fence in the same place, but that fence is not in a conforming spot because it's not on their property. It goes beyond the property line. So as part of this, we're going to take it down, put it onto the property line. That one existed. The walkway on the right side of the house also existed, but it was in a different form. It was more like individual stepping stones. And as a project with the neighbor, in putting a fence a little bit, fairly low, like maybe 18 inches or 2 foot high, little sort of retaining wall, that walkway on the side of the house was redone at some point in cooperation with the neighbor. There was a path there. It's different now, about the same size, but it's concrete and not intermittent, like stepping stones. There was a driveway. The driveway is bigger than what was approved in 2001. That's mainly for safety, being able to turn around and being able to exit the property safely onto Ashland. The patio, in the approval in 2001, there was a patio that was on there. It was designed to be smaller than what's there now. The shed did not exist. The garbage can enclosure did not exist.
So how did we get from the patio and, what was it, the driveway, both are bigger than what was approved in 2001?
Yeah, that's one of the questions that I don't have an answer to, in the sense that I wasn't a part of any of that. We worked together in 2001. Perhaps the Polisons were spoiled into having everything taken care of in that process, where we did the design, we came for the variance and went through the whole building permit process, and everything was done. In these intermittent projects, when the driveway needed repaving, it would be a guess on my part, because I wasn't part of that, but that for convenience and safety, it was just, if the contractor asked, do you want it a little bit bigger? Over here, make it so you can move the car. I think they just said yes.
Well, then let me ask the applicant, because...
That's a question for the applicant.
Yeah, exactly.
To answer more than you or the other witness.
Because it raises now more concerns to me. You had the hearing in 2001. You were approved for certain dimensions and certain limitations on the driveway and patio, and then you had more work done. How did you, even if the contractors didn't say you need to get approval for this, why didn't you think of that, knowing that you had variances for a certain size and now we're making it bigger?
Well, first of all, the original garage in the house, which was built in 45, was one-car garage. So we enlarged that, and then we put in the driveway that was approved. couple years ago, my husband takes care of these things. A couple years ago, we repaved because we have a tree along the fence that was pulling up the driveway. And, you know, we were losing macadam. So we had a paver come and pave it. Now, I didn't have any part in it. I thought he just followed the lines. But maybe my husband told him to do something different. That's very possible. And it's slightly bigger. There's a little, it's in the area where when I back out of the garage, what I back into is our shed. So I have to make a K or a W turn in order to turn around to get to Ashland. We have 3 cars. You know, there's 3 adults living in the house. So it might have gotten bigger. I didn't have direct contact with the man that did the job. I don't think he did a great job, but we had to cut up the roots of the tree so it wouldn't recur. In terms of the patio, David was already finished. There was an existing patio there when we bought it. It was gravel, I believe. You remember what it was? Anyway, so my husband met this landscape guy in Dyer's hardware store. They recommended him. And that's all I remember. I didn't have any part of it. He said I could do this, this, and this. I didn't know if we had a blueprint for it or not. But there was an existing patio. So he put down permeable. He left gravel, and so it is permeable. And they're pavers. And maybe he went beyond the limits. I don't know. And so when we did this discovery, we found out, oops, and we don't have any problem making it smaller. We can have some of the paving blocks. It's not a big issue for us. I mean, we've gone over this multiple times, David and my husband and I. So we want to make it conforming. That's why I'm here. So we can move forward and get, you know, because this is our second time before you. I think the difficulty that none of you realize, not having living in these properties, is like David said, the fact that we have a driveway that cuts through our backyard. The people that live across the street from us with larger plots, their driveway's in the front, so they drive in, they go around the back to go in their garage. We have a driveway, so that cuts part of the property down, so you're not realizing how much you're utilizing. I wouldn't say when you go in my backyard, you'd say, oh my God, this looks like Staten Island or something like that. I don't want to, you know, it's not, it doesn't look like, we still have a nice lawn, our dogs run around, but it's the difficulty of having the driveway right in the middle, and you can't really park on overnight on the streets. You can't park on Ashland, so, you know, the driveway might have become bigger than it should have been, but that wasn't really intentional. You know, we just trying to target our needs. The garbage dumpster, the garbage, whatever, is gone. We got rid of it. So my husband's already moved the garbage and recycling on the other side of the fence. So once we move the fence, we'll have to pull them in a little farther.
So, listen to what you're saying. It sounds like there's a willingness on your part to address the patio.
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry. Listening to what you're saying, it sounds like there's a willingness on your part to address the patio,
Oh, yeah.
which is much bigger than what was, well, much is a
It's not
subjective
much
term.
bigger. It's a little bit.
It's bigger than what was approved. Are you making a specific offer? Is Mr. Rosen prepared to make a specific
Well,
offer?
we've already because I thought we were going to come in the fall, and this would be all done. I was all set to go, so he got in contact with a very nice company that he's used before. I spoke to the man. He was promising to come at the end of his honeymoon, and then I was told, you can't do it now, because now they're not seeing you till January. So we were all set to go. I mean, we have this man at the ready, right, Peter? What's his name?
Well, I think it would be reasonable, and our attorney will correct me if I'm wrong, would to say that all of these changes that were not approved by the city came under your ownership and stewardship.
Yeah, I guess if that's
So,
how the legalese
therefore,
says
that,
it.
I guess, puts us in the realm of looking at this as how would we have reacted to this if indeed it had come to us at the appropriate time? Is kind of probably where it is, other than saying to you, you got to take it all out and come and start over again.
The interesting thing is just recently, online, I was looking at a website that said what a city website that said what you need permits for, because truthfully, as a homeowner, you don't know what you need a permit for, or you don't. But I wasn't intentional when we had that patio put in. I mean, when I hire somebody to do something, I assume they're the expert in that field. I'm not. I'm a business manager. I don't know anything about what you people do, and I respect what you do. You know, keep Summit the way Summit is. It's beautiful. But at the time, I didn't know we needed a permit. But I was just looking the other day, and it said you don't need a permit for a patio. Has that changed since we did the work?
That doesn't really matter. I mean, you
No, I
didn't-
know, but at the
You
time
didn't have
we-
a permit. And
Well,
as
that's
a-
the thing, even with our fence, when we bought
The
the house.
permit is not, I don't think the permit is necessarily the issue, it's the size of what you
Yeah,
built.
I mean,
Okay.
to
Well-
give the example from the zoning officer report, Chris Anderson is saying that the patio was approved for 224 square feet, and that it currently now is 486 square feet. So
Which
it's
is easy to fix.
more than double the size.
So I'm saying we didn't do it. I mean, my husband really takes care of more of that stuff than I do, but I don't think it was really intentional. I guess the guy showed him a nice arrangement in our backyard, and it looked nice. We said, go ahead with it. But we told David we can make it smaller. I mean, it's not a big issue. I don't want to, be defiant about it. I could live without
So
that.
I guess, we would need, I mean, I'm probably not voting this application, but I mean, I would be looking for a more specific answer than that. Right now, it's
I think we may
486.
get to that.
We
Wait,
have
how-
that.
how do you
I think
get-
we may get to that.
Okay.
Well, what I'd like to see, Joe, you brought up a point of what would we have done? We're considering this sort of de novo. I would like to see the resolution from 2001.
I think they provided
I
it.
didn't see it in
I think it was in the original application.
I believe they provided
That was
it.
here somewhere.
Did I miss that?
Right, would you be willing to go back to the original application, whatever the resolution was, and go back to what you were
This would
originally
have
Stuff that long.
approved for?
I thought it was in the original application.
I'm not understanding.
So in 2001, right,
Yeah.
you were like capped at a certain amount. Would you go back to that?
We were not
Hypothetically?
at the limit on lot coverage
Bare bones
at that time.
Right.
So it's a combination of these things. So the lot coverage is affected by the size of
Yeah.
the driveway, the patio, this walkway, the house.
Correct, and I get that, and I also get that you're not here for this variance. You didn't come here for this variance, you came here for the second floor, or the renovations, which you've now
Yes.
pulled after it was discovered there were all these non-conforming issues. So that, whether you knew it and did it intentionally, or whether it was just negligent, and you allowed
Or a
it to happen
mistake,
anyway.
Just a mistake.
Or just a mistake.
I like that word better than negligent.
Sure. It still happened. So we're here for, right, correcting the non-conforming, but to be fair, right, this did happen, and, I mean, it's like a code enforcement issue, kind of, right? Do we turn our backs on this happening and just kind of say, okay, if this happens to somebody else, you can just come in and we'll allow it? Or do we go back to the original
I
proposal?
think that Joe presented it properly, that whether it exists right now or not is not the primary issue. There's no credit because it exists or because we're reducing it. I think that it's worth looking at it in a variety of ways, and what I'd like to go through in the presentation is showing that I think that it's very appropriate if it came to you in this form. If we came to you with these issues, or if somebody else did, where none of these things existed, would this be an acceptable application? I mean, I think it is, because I think that if it was a conforming lot, none of this would need any variances. I think it is because the stormwater management covers all of the issues that go beyond this property. I think it is because you can't see any of these, and I think that one of the reasons why these things only came up when somebody could look at plans is because you can't perceive it either from, really from the adjoining properties or from, like, on the street. And I don't think that the perception of what is on the property is something that's glaring. So I think that some of these things I don't know how old some of them are. I would guess that some of these nonconformances may be 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years old. And they have only come up with the application that we submitted. So, anyway.
By that logic, though, basically with adequate screening, anything goes. I mean, I don't think that's.
Oh, you'd be
we generally
surprised
have
what
that
goes on.
attitude. Well, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
It's just
Right,
for
and
our
that's why
attention.
we are here. Without a, a building application, we're here as, in order to reconcile some of these, to resolve some of these issues that they're non-conforming. They exist. The work was done. The shed went up, the garbage can enclosure, the walkway was redone, the fence. and
Kelly
so on.
said the shed was done before our 2002.
I'm sorry?
Okay.
The shed was there before 2002.
Okay,
Could you
so,
speak up?
You need to
The
speak
shed
up.
was there before our first project in 2002.
so,
Was the shed there before you bought the house?
No, but I, what? Yeah,
So you put the shed up?
We put the
You just
shed
did
up.
it
My
before
husband-
your first project?
my husband went to the zoning board personally, in person, and said, I just bought a shed,
to the zoning department.
apartment, and said, I just bought a shed. I'm in, at that time it was called 2 front yards. That's another question I have. When did we change that and why? But it was called 2 front yards, and said to the zoning officer, where should I put it? Because it was like a certain amount of feet from your front, the front of your house, you couldn't put anything. Well, we had 2 front yards. So she said, put it any place you want.
Did you have a permit?
She didn't say he needed a permit. He said, just put it where you want. I'm telling you, that's the truth. So I'm not saying that's a
And I
justification
can tell
for.
you that I've had the same experience with a shed under 10 feet, under 10 by 10. Krista told me, here, put it as long as it's this far away from the fence, you're fine.
So,
Well, that's different than anywhere you want.
Anywhere I want.
well,
What I do.
in reason, not, you can be, what, I don't know, 75 feet to your front, your house. So that was at the front of the house, because we're on Ashland, and then the other front of the house on Plymouth. So it posed a dilemma. But my question is, when did you change it to a pass-through, and what are the differences between the two?
In the 20-something years since we were here, the ordinance has changed, the definition of a through lot has changed. But I think that it would be helpful if we could just sort of plow through this, and then I think that a lot of the questions will be answered.
Because a lot of, a number of these you've removed and corrected already.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
just keep moving and see where
Good.
we wind up.
Yes.
Okay, so the lower half of this, it may be hard to read, I can make it a little bit larger, but it says, the scope of the proposed work now is to reduce the size of the patio, reduce the size of the driveway, eliminate the garbage can enclosure entirely. That's already gone, because a permit wasn't needed for that. Relocate the existing fence along Ashland to be fully on the property. That would have been done, but a permit is needed for that. And the next item, relocate the shed in the rear of the property to be fully on the property. There's a little corner that goes over the line. It's maybe the size of my laptop or something, but it creeps over the line. We can't put the fence on the property with the shed there, and we can't move the shed without a permit. And so we're here for that. But all of these things are ready to go. Continuing on, second to last item is to install a new stormwater management system to handle the, many of the issues that would normally arise with a lot coverage variance. And we are, as I said, withdrawing the application for the second floor addition. Now in going through this, and I'll go through kind of, I was going to say quickly, but I don't think that that's really the right word. So there are, and I have photos which can help on a lot of this. There are these 6 non-conforming elements. As I said, there's a driveway, patio, shed, garbage can enclosure, the walkway, and the fence. The building coverage statistic that we would be seeking a variance for is an increase of 75 square feet, or about 0.7%, and that is for the shed. We had received a building coverage variance for 23.8%. This boosts it up to 24.5%. So the shed is building coverage. The shed also has some impact on lot coverage, but lot coverage is mainly the sum of all of those things. And what we propose to do, over in here, if you can read it, is to reduce the driveway area, reduce the patio area, eliminate the garbage can enclosure, and we'd like to maintain the walkway as it is. The result will be a reduction in the lot coverage from what it currently is by about 2%. So the allowable is 35%, and the proposed is 43.2. Now, the two elements of lot coverage usually are the aesthetics and the stormwater. The aesthetics tend to matter for those who are adjoining neighbors and for anybody who might come past the property. So with regard to the aesthetics, just you have these photos. Just want to scroll over. This is the back. This is the Ashland Road side of the property. Over here, you can see this this garbage can enclosure. That's now gone. And then it's fence. And this is the top of the shed. The fence will move back. The shed will move back. There are these tall arborvitae over here. Looking at the side of the property, the patio is in here. There's a lot of, there's extensive planting. You can barely see the adjoining neighbor over here. There's a little bit here. But even they don't have any windows that comes down to see the patio. So I think that the aesthetic issues for the lot coverage are taken care of not because of landscaping that's going to go in, but because of what's already there. When we look at the rest of the patio, we can see that the backyard, all in here, is very well landscaped. It goes up quite tall, and just in the last photo that you have with the patio, there's a lot of tall plantings that are already there. John Linson had been to the property. He felt that it's very well screened. He had no objections to any of this. So the aesthetics, I think, are covered, and the Politons have spoken with their adjoining neighbors. Then the other issue with regard to lot coverage is stormwater management. And for that, Pete Korzen of Korzen Engineering is here, and we can go over that, but bottom line is that the stormwater management system will take water off of the roof of the house, down the leaders, underground pipe into stormwater management, which will retain it on site. Currently, water goes down the driveway and then down the street and is gone. That's the only thing that has any kind of significant impact to anybody else, whether it's a neighbor or somebody just downhill or downstream. And we are taking care of all of the excess stormwater, more than what we would be required to if this came as a fresh application. So it's not just the difference between 35%, which is the limit, and the 43% that we are proposing. But anyway, we've taken care of that stormwater.
Can I interrupt, because I was shuffling through my notes, but I want to ask you a question. So the existing lot coverage is 45.1. You're saying you're proposing to reduce it to 43.2. How many square feet is that?
Well, since the lot is just over 10,000 square feet, 1% is 100 square feet.
So it'd be about 200, a little less than 200 square feet.
That we are removing. Correct.
How much of that is driveway? How much of that is patio? How much of that is the garbage can enclosure?
Well, the garbage can enclosure is only 10 square feet. The shed is 75. Then after that, I mean, the shed is going to our proposal is to keep the shed and shift it into a more conforming location. But with lot coverage, it's sort of everything combined. I mean, it's driveway, it's patio, it's walkways, it's the house itself, you know, it's all of those things. So,
I think the question is,
Yeah.
what's the split on what's
Yeah,
being removed?
of that 200 square feet roughly that's being removed.
oh, mostly it's patio.
Mostly it is patio.
Yeah, the driveway, we're removing a slight bit, but not very much, just for sort of,
It's on the plan.
yeah, okay. She said it's on the plan.
It's a little,
We have on the far left of the drawing, it shows the reductions.
Oh, I missed that, sorry.
Yeah, so the patio we're removing, not quite 200 square feet, 170-ish, and the driveway's a small amount, like 15, 16 square feet.
So it looks
Anyhow.
like the patio, it's about 170 square feet is
Yes,
is being
yeah, the
removed.
bulk of it is in the patio.
So it's actually
being removed.
641 now, and you're proposing 470.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, when Krista mentioned the 470, that's 170 less than what it,
Right, and even that is still double, more than double was approved 20 years ago.
yeah, some of it, and I don't want to get too wonky about this, but some things used to count that don't, I mean, some things didn't count that count now, whether it's a path to the patio, all of that counts now. So we've counted everything, there's a path, and we identify how many square feet are in this path and on the walkway on the side. Krista, for example, I don't even remember what the current interpretation is, but it used to be that a front walk didn't count in lot coverage. Because, and the logic was, everybody has one. So the exact same property can change statistics over time just because of what gets counted. In any case, we're taking about 200 square feet or so off. The bulk of that is in the patio. Okay?
and that actually, when we first came and we were told that our fence was over the county line, and I asked you why, when we bought it, and we haven't changed it since we bought it, and because it was 2 front yards, he said, the answer that I got from you is that, well, we didn't care about it then. So that's basically what he's saying too. Things change, you know? A lot of times you're not intentionally trying to break rules, but how can you keep up with it? Our property changed, you know what it's called.
I mean, this board, we don't make the rules, we deal with it. They
No, I
change over
know,
the years.
and they're good rules, but you changed the name on our property, and so therefore, the things that count now didn't count then. So how do we know
Yeah,
that?
But that's also why you go to the building department when you go for the projects.
Well, my
That's
husband
why.
did at the time for the shed. He just recently went there to ask a question too, so, I mean, I think we try to be compliant, but we're not experts like, you know, the zoning board, so.
We are property,
Huh?
we're just like residents like
Right,
you are.
yeah, I
And,
understand.
yeah, we just have to follow the rules
Yeah.
and go to the building
Well,
for a
we have
fence
people
or
that
anything
follow
else.
the rules.
And we
do
have
follow-
experts to help us.
Yes.
Right.
And
the
when we go to
ones
ask
that you-
them the questions is why we do that.
Yeah,
And
but they don't always-
that's what you as a citizen need to do as well.
But they don't always tell you what you think. I don't know what their expertise is. I put my faith in them, but sometimes they don't do what they should do. But I can't
Yeah,
police that.
I think we're trying to get over that and move on to
Yes,
what we can do
exactly.
to resolve.
okay, so.
Yes, that's what we want to resolve.
Floor area ratio, this is a D variance, and this is kind of a silly one, but we're adding 52 square feet because the shed, it's not living area, the shed, the central part of the shed is about 7 feet 4 inches high, 7'6". It has a very shallow roof pitch, and so a portion of the shed counts in building coverage, lot coverage, and floor area. That's the only thing that counts in floor area. It's the only thing that counts in building coverage now that the garbage can enclosure, which, because it's more than 1 foot above the ground, that counted too, so we just got rid. That garbage can enclosure had 4 nonconformances: building coverage, lot coverage, rear yard setback, and side yard setback, for that little thing. So the easy answer on that one was, okay, there's 4 variances we don't need to ask for, or at least that it's not contributing to. Anyway, so we have this floor area ratio, which changes the number from what was approved in 2001 of 27.9, and it goes up 0.5% to 28.4. Then there are a series of setback variances, and I'm just going to go through those with you. And we're going to get into a few more definitions here as to what counts as what. But rear yard setback to the shed. Currently, it's 0 because it goes right to the property line. Actually, a corner goes over. We propose to move it to be 4 feet back from the rear property line. On every other property in the R15 zone, that would be compliant. But here, because it's a through lot, the requirement is that no accessory structure can be, there has to be a setback of 30% of the lot depth, which ends up being 42 feet away. And 42 feet away would put that shed in the family room or in the garage or something. So what we've done is we've moved it fully onto the property. We made it 4 feet back. That's what we're requesting approval on. Normally in an R15 zone, that would be compliant. And the fact that there's that big fence and the shed is behind it, and once it's 4 feet back, there could even be planting in between. We don't think that it adversely impacts any of the neighbors. Just to look at that shed is that little thing on the left there. And the center part of it. Anyway. So it's not living space, it's just, it counts because there's a ceiling height of more than 7 feet. We could play games and eliminate that by adding some joists that hang down another 4 to 6 inches, but we're just sort of playing it straight on this one, just saying, if it's something that is approvable for the floor area ratio, then we would appreciate that. So then,
You said that this is the only property
what?
that has this this through situation?
No, I'm saying
Or do
that
any of these other 14
all of
houses
them,
on?
all of them. The only through lots have that additional requirement instead of 4 feet.
It's not anything that's, again, that she has to, that the applicant has to comply with alone?
No.
Correct.
Every other house on this street is facing the same problem?
They have the same zoning constraints, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. It sounded like
I'm just
this
saying
was
that
a unique, singular episode,
Um,
and it's not.
through lots are different than a regular R15 lot, or 15,000 square feet.
These aren't the only through lots in Summit, are they?
No, there are a few others.
By the little theater,
Yeah,
he
there are a couple
researched it.
over by the Playhouse.
So
Yeah.
it's not a unique individual situation, it's just a situation that applies
There
to all.
there
It's
are-
rare, though.
There are a few, there may
30.
be a handful of other
Maybe
ones.
30
Okay.
total in town.
Anyway,
Okay.
this is the only block where the whole block is this way.
Okay.
Well, where there are many houses, by the Playhouse, there are
Couple.
a couple of houses there. Anyhow,
Over
so these next one,
Third Street.
rear yard at the garbage can enclosure, that's eliminated. Side yard at the garbage can, that's eliminated. The patio, the existing is 8.1 feet. We would like to keep that. The required minimum is 15 feet. When I said at the beginning that a typical R15 lot would be 90 feet wide, this one is 75 feet wide. That extra 15 feet, if that was put on each side, this patio would be conforming. So it's important to see that the patio is very well screened and does not adversely impact the neighbor. Have you spoke to that
Yeah.
neighbor?
We never see them. You can't see them from our
You
backyard.
have to speak up again.
Oh, yeah, I spoke to my neighbor. He actually gave me a letter if you wanted to see it, but it's not notarized. But he said, we don't bother them, they don't bother us, we don't see them. Anything we do, he's in favor of. Has no problems. The one on that side, you know, where our patio is.
Right.
So-
The fact that he wrote a letter
wrote a
is
letter.
is probably not admissible
It's
because
not
it's
admissible.
not from him. He's not here.
He is
But
a
anyway,
lawyer, though, but he gave it to us anyway.
In any,
A quick question to clarify
Yes.
this setback. Krista's memo has it at 8 feet, whereas 15 feet is required. You said 8.1. Is it definitely 8.1, or should we go with Krista's figure of 8 feet?
I got it off of a survey, but it can be either one. I mean, the difference of an inch is not a critical
Okay.
thing here. The next one, Krista and I have a different interpretation of, and that is the rear yard setback at the patio. For these through lots, the setback, as I said, is 42 feet, because it's 30% of the depth of the lot. That's 42 feet. So we've brought the patio, which is currently about 39 and a half feet from Ashland. We brought it back. There's a little piece that bumps out. We brought it back 2.5 feet so that we meet that 42-foot requirement. Krista says, well, Krista did it a different way. Krista started at the house, then went to the rear yard setback that's allowed for the house, and then said a patio can go 10 feet more than that if the patio is part of the principal building. I don't think it is. I mean, it's not structurally connected. So she says that the requirement would be 46 feet. That's how she interpreted this element. I think that at the rear, that a patio is an accessory structure and 42 feet is the requirement. But this is where the ordinance has different rules that don't perfectly overlap. Last one is the walkway. The walkway is 1 foot away from the neighbor instead of 2 feet. It was done in cooperation with that neighbor, and we would ask that that be able to remain. And then the last thing here is actually a setback to a parking area. It's supposed to be 5, where the driveway was bumped, sort of extended out a little bit, so it's 5 feet from the property line. The existing condition was 3. We eliminated that nonconformance by making it 5 feet. It's still allowed to be a parking space, but if it's a parking space, it has to be 5 feet away from the neighboring property, and so it is. So we eliminated that one. So, in summary, 4 existing nonconformances will be eliminated, so they no longer require variances. 3 nonconformances are being reduced or improved or moved toward compliance. And with the underground stormwater management system, that accommodates more than the required amount for the lot coverage. I think that's probably the biggest thing that's being done, that's being added to the property, because it's the only thing that really affects not just a zoning statistic, but potentially somebody else's enjoyment of their property. Because if the water runs off, it goes down somewhere. Right now, there really isn't any negative aspect to any of these. The walkway is 1 foot away instead of 2 on the right side. The patio is reduced in size, but the closest point is 8 or 8.1 feet from the neighboring property. Nancy has spoken with that neighbor. That neighbor is completely supportive. One of the photos that I showed you, and I can show you again if you'd like, shows that the landscaping is really extensive, so even their second floor windows can't really see the patio. So with all of this, we end up with 4 kinds of variances. We end up with floor area ratio, which is really just 50 square feet in a shed that's slightly more than 7 feet high. Building coverage, which is also the shed, the 75 square feet of the shed. The lot coverage, for which we're addressing the 2 main things, the aesthetics and the stormwater management, which had not been, the stormwater management had not been dealt with before. And The setbacks. The walkway is a foot closer than it should be. The patio is 8 feet instead of 15 on a narrow lot. And so that's kind of where we are. The shed and the patio, the distance to Ashland Road in the backyard behind the fence and everything, the intent is to meet the requirement on a normal lot. Actually, the patio could be much closer on a normal lot, but we tried to meet that, the setback for an accessory structure on a through lot. Okay, with all of that, glad to answer any questions.
Deputy, you're up.
Okay. I have one question for
Yes.
for you regarding the fence
Yes.
that was being relocated in
Yes.
Ashland. There is, on the plan, we see that note. However, on the previous survey from 2021
Mhm.
that was provided to us, the fence in the neighbor's property, what will be happening with that? Because that's like 4.5 feet into the neighbor's property.
Right, and I think that's
They're
the
fine
neighbor's,
with it.
that's the neighbor's fence.
Yeah, it's actually more their fence, because it joins right there.
Okay,
Yeah, we actually,
their fence, okay.
it is their fence, they have the same kind. And
Some
then
of-
it
yeah,
joins by where a tree used to be, so it's a
Yeah.
little curved, but it's not on the exact,
Yes.
they're more on our property than we are on theirs, right? Isn't that how?
No, the fence is on their property, and so it appears that there's more room on yours, but the fence is not the property line. But the fence is sort of, several of these fences were done that way originally for trees that may or may not still exist.
Yeah,
Where the guys who put up fences, they really don't get zoning permits. I mean, they just put it, it looks like it's here and so on. So the fence that was existing when they bought the property on Ashland, that's being repositioned onto the property. And the reason for that is that in order to maintain that fence, they ended up replacing a portion of it. So at that point, we think it's appropriate to bring it into conformance. It wasn't done then, we want to do it now. With that other fence, the fences were done with the neighbor, and so that's apparently their fence.
Anything else?
So for the driveway width, which was resolution from 2001, which was 25 feet was approved,
Mhm.
there's no change to this driveway width currently with this current plan, is that correct?
I think so.
The only thing that we are doing to the driveway is we have removed 2 feet toward the neighbor because it was 3 feet away from the property line rather than 5. I didn't think that Krista mentioned anything on that. I don't know whether there's, I don't have it. I think that that's the width. Well, I'd have to check what that is. The width of the driveway within the front yard. I don't remember what you say the existing was, or the approval was 25, or
That
that's?
was per the resolution that was provided to us, so just
Okay,
making sure
I
there's no
don't
change.
have an update on that, I don't
Okay.
know.
We have no comments on the stormwater calculations, we take no exception to that, so
Okay.
we understand your calculations on that. And just as a thing that I noticed from the staff comments, there was a fire official comment regarding the shed, and I'll
Yes.
defer to the board if you want to bring that up.
For anybody who didn't see that, the zoning says that the shed in a rear yard on most properties should be 4 feet away. The building code says that any combustible structure that's within 5 feet has to have a rating for that part. So it just simply means, and we'll coordinate with, we may either move the shed to 5 feet in order to not have to do anything, or coordinate with Ralph Maritato in the building department in order to see what kind of, whether it's just a single layer of sheetrock on the inside of the shed or what it is. But we will, yeah, I noticed that was mentioned.
Okay, that's That's it,
I'm
thank you.
assuming that's an acceptable condition.
It's not a
We
zoning.
are not granting them any variance for it. They have to comply with the building code,
If
and
they're
whether,
moving the
whether
shed.
that involves adding the material to the inside to make it fire resistant, or just moving it another feet, that's on them to comply.
Yes.
So, if you really
As
wanted
long
to,
as we're okay with the extra foot.
they're bringing it
Yeah,
into
okay,
their property
fine.
and extra.
All right.
foot.
Farther away
Farther
from
away
Ashland.
the center.
Just making sure we're all on the same page.
Yep.
Any questions from, are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Yes. So this lot is undersized. Are all the through lots on Plymouth undersized?
Most of them are. I think
Except
the
for the
ones
ends?
on the ends are
Right.
different, but my recollection is that I don't have the zoning map in front of me. I have most of it in my head, but I think that they're all 75 feet wide
Okay.
and the same 140 feet deep on this side of the street. As Nancy mentioned, on the other side of Plymouth, they're the full size.
Gotcha.
75 or 80?
So this is, so to Mr. Steiner's point, it's not unique to the property that this is a through lot or undersized. It's just a general hardship to say that it's undersized where R15 would be.
Yeah,
More
I think that, right, I mean, the property is about 2/3 the size that it would normally be in the R15 zone.
But isn't everybody on our side the same way as,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
they're
just the
very
other
similar
side.
with the one, whatever, some of them might be a little bit wider, but
Yeah.
When you redid the driveway, was it 2016, you said?
Remember? About 2016? 17, 18.
So prior to redoing it, putting aside the fact that you had obviously the tree
Yeah.
impacting a portion of it, was it functional?
Yeah.
So would it be a hardship if you had to reduce it to the levels in 2016 from a functionality standpoint?
Well, they didn't make it bigger in 20, they just, there was a tree, as I
Okay, but
told
I
you.
misunderstood.
It just curves out in one area. It's pretty much the same size.
Was it
Big-
gravel?
Huh?
Was part of it gravel before?
On the
Yeah,
side
so
where the
part of it
rocks
was-
are. Yeah.
The paved part, and there was some gravel part that they were using to be able to move the car. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so,
and when it was paved, that gravel portion was paved.
Yeah,
We're cutting
because
that back.
The tree pushed up the asphalt, so he had to chop it away, but he curved out a little bit instead of, but we have like, what do you call that stone? That delineates our driveway and the lawn, so that's still the same. The Belgian block, I couldn't think of it. So there always was Belgian block along the borders. That's all the same, but they just kind of curved out a little bit.
so when you had that gravel portion,
Uh-huh.
was it in conformance with the 2001 approval?
I think so.
Well, yeah, one of the problems is that the interpretation of gravel has changed.
It's actually a river rock.
The-
No?
the- Gravel, you used to be able to put, I don't know about exactly what it was in 2001, I haven't looked that up, but it used to be that gravel did not count, it was counted as permeable, meaning it did not count in lot coverage. Then, in order to simplify the process for getting a repaving permit, they just said whatever you have, you can pave it. If it's gravel, if the driveway is broken up, you can pave that whole thing, because otherwise, every driveway was going to have to go through a longer process.
I'll just cut to the chase. I want to understand whether you were ever in conformance with the 2001 approval and an operation of law made it out of conformity, or if it never was in conformity.
No, we didn't make it bigger this time.
I would
The same
suspect
driveway.
that it's
No point.
probably both of those. I think that the driveway that goes straight from the garage doors out to the street, there was, that was the original approval, but gravel was allowed then. And so there was a little bit of space on that side that was gravel. When the driveway gets repaved, that has sort of, that's counted as lot coverage already. So it was allowed to be, if it was gravel there that was used as part of the driveway, it was allowed to be paved. So I think it's a combination of things. I think that the gravel was added to the side of the driveway to allow for the safer exiting. Then the gravel was allowed to be paved because the gravel counted. We've had that on a couple of other houses that we've worked on, where that lot coverage statistic with no other change, the lot coverage statistic, it changed because of what gets counted.
Thanks.
Now we count everything, front walks, gravel, everything.
Other questions? Questions on this side? Okay, do you have questions from the public? Before I forget again. No questions from the public? Okay, you have another witness?
We have Pete Corson on the stormwater management here, just in case there are questions about that.
Deputy, you didn't have any, I don't believe?
No, we have no exception.
Any of the board members wish to hear testimony on the, okay? I don't ask the public that, so.
So, glad to answer any more questions. Apologies to the next applicants for running late here.
It wasn't a half an hour.
I don't think so.
No, we didn't make the half hour, we got it.
But, so going back to the question that Joe raised in the beginning of if this was a new application that came before this board, the setbacks, 4 feet for the shed, which would be normal on R15 lots. In this case, 42 is required. Having the patio 42 feet away from Ashland Road, but not 46 under the other interpretation. Having a walkway 1 foot away instead of 2 feet away, that was done in cooperation with the neighbor on that side. Having floor area ratio that increased by 0.5% for the space that's more than 7 feet high within a shed. Building coverage, same kind of thing. It's just the shed itself, that's the only building coverage. And then lot coverage for the combination of things, the driveway to make it safer, to be able to turn, to be able to go out face first onto Ashland, and the patio, which is currently 8 feet away, but we have reduced, we've taken out, as Tom Yuko mentioned, we've gotten rid of a chunk of that, which is in the area that's closer to the neighbor's house, that wraps more on the side of the Pollison's house rather than being on the side of the garage. So those are the things we have. The lot coverage is probably the most significant one, and the aesthetics on that have been managed by plantings that are not promised and hope to grow in 10 years, but they're already there. Support from the neighbor and the stormwater management. To me, the stormwater management is probably the most significant thing in reducing the impact of the development on this property for neighbors. Not the fact that there's a fence there, none of that. It makes the whole backyard invisible to everybody, but the stormwater could affect somebody off-site, and so that's, to me, the main thing that we're really trying to deal with, in addition to all these other little tweaks.
Just to keep me honest, David, the pictures.
Yes.
Did you say we had them?
They were submitted.
I'm not sure I've ever, does anybody have copies of them in their package?
No, but
Okay, then we
we
should-
we
What?
saw them the last time they were here. They're the same pictures.
Well, I have everything, and I don't, I'm.
That was
Can we just
submitted, I mean.
introduce them and mark them,
Yeah,
just to
we'll
be
mark them as
safe?
A1 just to be safe.
Yes.
And,
There.
only because I don't recall seeing them, I'm sorry.
They were taken in September 2021 and in March 2022. And they were submitted along with the application.
By
Should I just
somebody.
hand these to you?
By somebody with your staff, from your staff? Somebody from your staff, okay. And they,
Yes, and each photo is identified.
and they represent the
Oh, yeah.
condition of the property at that time.
Yes, definitely. And essentially, other than the climate, I mean, the season, it's exactly the way it is now.
Okay, it's now your turn for any wrap-up that you'd like to give us.
I'm sorry, it took us longer than a half an hour. I'm hoping that we can move forward because we started this project in 2020, so time is ticking, and although we changed our plans, we'd like to do some things in our house, and all these surprises that we had is going to take away from our original budget, but we're happy to comply and move forward and, you know, and do what we have to do as good citizens of Summit. And that's all we're asking, just so we can move forward, and we'll correct what you feel is non-compliant or conforming is the correct term, and do our best. But we weren't being negligent. There was honest mistakes, and I'm sure if you went into everybody's property in Summit, you would find more than you think. So it happens, but not with any malice or intentions. We're law-abiding citizens, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into executive, oh, sorry. Public, anybody wish to tell us what they think about this application? Seeing no one, finally remembered. We can go into executive session, at which point we will discuss. Probably will not be part of that discussion, but do we have any conditions?
Just our usual compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum.
Yes.
And I just, one question, with all the discussion about variances and so forth, the variances in Krista's report dated December 20th are the variances you're asking for. Did you change anything tonight in our discussion?
That's correct. I didn't go through hers as
Yeah.
well. She phrases the same things. They're all the same with the 1-inch difference on the side yard setback to the patio. And our difference of opinion, but I mentioned hers. And in this realm, we go with what Krista says.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the shed considered a permanent structure or auxiliary?
Accessory, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, accessory structure.
So it, let's say they sell the house, the newcomer or somebody wanna rebuild the house or modify it, they have to come back to us for
No,
variance for the shed?
If we're granting the variance tonight, which is what they're asking for, to leave it at that 4 or 5 foot if it gets moved location, then the variance allows a shed to be located at that position.
For the for a future occupant as well?
Yes. The variance is run with the land for any owner.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the modifications
Who wants
we
to
made.
kick off the discussion?
I'm sorry.
I will.
Okay.
There's a lot of different parts here, and I feel stronger about certain parts than I do about other parts, but, I mean, I'll just indicate what I feel strongly about. I do think that it's a unique, I mean, this set of properties that face Plymouth and back onto Ashland are unique properties and present the homeowners with unique circumstances, and chief among them, I think we have to think about safety. I think that what they're proposing with respect to the driveway, we really should accept. I think it's a safety issue. I do understand what, you know, how she needs to, you know, kind of turn around in a tight space so that she can pull out onto Ashland face first, head first. And so for that reason, you know, they're asking for a 5-foot setback on that little bump out area. I personally would support that. The walkway on the side with the 1-foot bump out it's a unique situation. They don't have a driveway that goes from the front to the back. And so when there's maintenance, when there's snow blowers that have to be moved around the property, or, things like that, when there's ice or snow or whatever, you have to be able to move around the property, wheelbarrows or, whatever, who knows. It's a unique situation, and I think it's clear that it's not, they're not using that for the looks of it or for the enjoyment of it. I think that is a utilitarian, walkway that they need. And in walking up and down that street, they all seem to have some kind of a walkway to, get things from the front to the back of their property. So I think they really do need that. In terms of, the FARs and the building coverages and stuff, to the extent that this shed is, bumping them up because it's over 7 feet. Yes, it's a very undersized lot. I did pull up the zoning map. There are 14 lots on this block, and it looks as though there's 2 bigger properties on either side and 10 in the middle that look like they're pretty small and very similarly sized. They're all probably going to have similar issues. I don't know how many of them have sheds. The shed has to go somewhere because, probably it's an older house, with this fairly small, tight, 2-car garage, and not a lot of extra space to leave cars out. So, the stuff has to go somewhere. So a shed has to go somewhere. The size of the patio, I'll leave that for others to give their opinion. But, those are the things that I feel as though we should support.
Okay. Anyone about this side? Tom?
Well, I'm not voting, but the thing I can't have a hard time getting past is the patio. And it's hard for me to put myself in a position 21 years ago, would I have approved, because I wasn't on the board then, would I have approved what is being asked for now? Yes, you've gone from what it is 670 square feet now to 480 or whatever the number is, reducing to that compared to what was approved 21 years ago of 224 or 5. That is what would be the hanging point for me on voting. I agree with the other things. I don't want you to be hung up by the shed. You could rejigger the shed. I don't want to make you do that just to get rid of some of those variances. The driveway, I could see where that needs to be changed. It's that the size of the patio compared to what was approved. I'm having a hard time thinking, would we have approved that 21 years ago? Having a hard time with that.
Just keep in mind the standards you're looking at are we approving it tonight? It's not
Yeah,
necessarily
I know.
would you have done it in the past. It's weighing the benefits and the negatives of leaving it as it stands today.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I'm leaning towards saying I would not approve it based on that.
I'm sorry?
I'm leaning towards saying I would not approve the patio based on what Mr. Ball just described.
But what I think we're also talking about is if the patio came at the 2021 size, the 2001 size, and came today for an application that would increase it to the size that they are proposing to reduce it to, would we accept that today?
So I have a question for Andy that maybe he can help out with. What is the legal standard that we have to apply to this? Because I think one of the elements that we need to meet is missing. So can you just give us a bullet point, quick summation?
Technically there is the D4 FAR variance, which is can the site accommodate the proposed increase in floor area ratio, which it doesn't seem like many people have a major concern with. But the factor that's common to all the variances, Z variances included, are looking at the positive criteria, the benefits that are afforded under the municipal land use law that they're presenting as part of this application, and weighing that versus any negative, detriments to the zoning ordinance, the master plan, the code as a whole, and under that analysis, do the positives outweigh any negatives?
Gotcha. So one of the things we brought up, and you touched on, is the undersized aspect of the lot and why this should be seen as like a burden and we should kind of overlook kind of everything else. One of those elements is, do the positives that you would be granting through a variance outweigh the negatives? And I think one of the negatives, which is important, is does it go against the intent of the zoning ordinances and master plan? Right now, we have 14 other homes on this street that if we grant variances for, we're not effectively doing it, but, right, we are saying that we're okay with putting sheds within 42 feet of a home or backyard, front yard lot. That's, I think, kind of setting precedent, which I'm not comfortable doing. So unless you can speak to that or unless somebody else can negate that point of view, I'm kind of like stuck on that thing. So, yeah, I'm not saying I'm one way or the other. I just kind of, that's stuck in my head as something that is going to run with the land forever and is also going to be there for all the other properties to look at and say, well, okay, let's get more variances, and we're now overdoing the planning board stuff.
Well, if I can speak to that, Wally.
Definitely.
Or should I say Mr. Gonzalez? I think that the shed issue isn't based on the size of the lot. It's based on the fact that there's no backyard. And that if this were a backyard, 4 feet, 5 feet, depending, would be just fine. The hardship isn't so much the lot size, and given that every other variant that comes before us cites lot size as a hardship, I'm numb to that one. But I think that I'm not concerned about the shed setting up a precedent due to lot size. It's the two front yard situation there.
The shed is
correct?
like the more glaring obvious one, but right, the patio is an issue. The two front yard thing is an issue, and how we handle that, I think, is important, right? Because we're saying essentially everyone on this street can now make the same argument that they're making.
That point, like, resonates with me a lot, by the way. You look at the aerial view of all the other lots on that street, and people are finding a way to comply, or some probably not comply, let's be honest. But you see smaller driveways with, very deliberate cutouts for turnarounds. You don't see patios nearly of the same magnitude. So you see all these factors where applicants or homeowners have lived with those constraints. And we all know through lots, corner lots, you're always gonna have variances. Like corner lot and through lot setbacks, I'm with you 10 times out of 10. But with the coverage stuff, especially when we have prior construction that wasn't built in conformance with an existing variance or variance that you yourself applied to, in my mind, I have to impute knowledge to you. I know you said it was an honest mistake, and I believe you in that, but the homeowner's in the best position to be aware, and we kind of have to charge you with that knowledge. So, you come to us with a de novo application, let's say, to expand from that prior use to what's being proposed here right now. I haven't seen an appreciable hardship shown why that needs to be done. I see your neighbors complying within those constraints, and it's really tough. The patio is really a stumbling block for me. I appreciate, David, your testimony about the driveway, helping me understand the gravel didn't count years ago, now it counts. Okay, you're solving the turnaround, probably, maybe not in the most efficient fashion, but you're solving it in a way that makes a lot of sense. The patio is a lot tougher hill for me to climb.
Anyone else wish to opine?
One of they are offering up a significant concession or sweetener, whatever, which is the the stormwater management. It is, you know, of note and a benefit, and should not be, you know, it's not a throwaway.
So
Got
this
somebody-
applicant,
got
I'm
Somebody
sorry.
coughed over here.
No, so I do appreciate you coming back and reducing the patio and some of the driveway. I guess it still bothers me that there's so many things that were done without proper approval and from the building department. So that's why I do appreciate the stormwater management. But I'm just wondering, can we reduce the patio just a little tad more, maybe? That would make, I think, everyone feel better. So, because it was done without proper permitting from the building department.
I'm going to ask straight out, can we require or approve this with the patio going back to its original size?
You know, so technically, it's the applicant's application. They're asking for all these variances, and you can deny it in its entirety. You could also, in theory, look at individual aspects of it and not grant the particular, you know, setback variances associated with that increase in patio size.
And
Board might
perhaps
feel that
they
way.
might want to interrupt us and say whether or not they'd be willing to do that.
Give us a second.
Yes, please, go ahead. David, would you like us to take a 5-minute recess for you guys to talk about it? We'd be taking one right after this case anyway, so.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is two issues. One is the patio, the other one is, has to do with some of the aspects of the shed, whether it's its proximity to Ashland Road, or it adds two variances to this. It adds building coverage and it adds floor area ratio. And did I understand that you would have all of these under the requirements of a D variance? Or can that be separated to that
No,
one?
the only aspect of it that is a D variance is the FAR associated with the shed.
Mhm.
So everything else is
Right.
only a C variance.
So if this is a stumbling block for enough people, obviously our goal is to try and let you get to your next case and let the property, let the Pollisons have as what we've proposed. But if the shed was removed, is that sufficient to just, I can't ask for a vote that's not a vote, but I just wanted to get a sense from the members of the board whether that's...
I'm not sure I was asking about the shed, I was asking about the patio.
Right, and with regard to the patio, Ms. Newell had the suggestion or a question, would increasing that side yard setback from 8 feet to something more, to 10 feet or something, would that be sufficient? Because obviously they would like to have a patio. There's a grill there. The grill is within that 15 feet. Moving that is just a little bit more than just pulling up concrete pavers. But having some kind of nice-sized patio, not big, we're taking out the 170 square feet that was mentioned. But if we need to take out more, you know, if we have a patio that is usable and so on, then increasing that setback from 8 feet to 10 feet, or whatever it needs to be, that's acceptable, correct?
Yes.
And what would that reduce the size of the patio square footage was?
Use this one.
60 or 70 square feet. Sorry.
If we went to 10 feet, I think it's a little bit less than that. I think it's about 40 square feet.
Okay.
Because it's about, it looks like it's about, no, it looks like it's about maybe 18, so maybe it's 36 square feet if it's 18 feet, and if we take off a couple feet there. If it needs to be, you know, I mean, if it needs to be 12 feet, then we'd like to be able to have something that works.
Where does the gas line sit situated?
On the drawing,
Yeah.
it is straight out. We stopped it there because the gas line is right against that corner.
Okay.
I mean, everything can be moved.
No, moving a gas line is pain. We all know that.
Anyway, I offer that for, we offer that for discussion. Again, if the side yard setback to the patio, I assume that the difference between 42 feet and 46 feet off of Ashland is not an issue for anybody. Is anybody concerned about that?
No.
So it's the 8 feet instead of 15?
Well, what I'm looking at is the total number of square feet for what was approved in 2001 and what is today. And how do we get back to what was approved? And still allow it to be usable?
Yeah, and just,
Because I'm assuming that whatever you asked for in 2001 was planned to be usable. I don't think you would have applied for something.
lot
that
coverage
wouldn't
at
be
that time, there was 33.4. We could have gone up to 35% without a variance. So the patio that we had proposed could have been another 170 feet larger and gotten us right up to the coverage limit. That would have meant that the patio could be much closer to the size that it is, and the difference in lot coverage is the driveway, the walkway, the now counting of the front walk and the shed and so on. But it would put the patio into something that would have been conforming at that time.
Joe, since the rules changed on the walkways, what if the rectangle would be considered for the original square footage, and you exclude counting that connecting walkway from the driveway so that they can get that to that number? Would that be a reasonable?
I'm looking for a compromise that works.
Yeah.
If that works, but again, that's.
I don't know what that square footage would be.
I would say that with the approval that we had in 2001, if we had made that patio, Tom, Yuko, did you say that it was about 200 and some square feet?
What was approved, according to Chris's report, 224 was approved in 2001.
Okay.
This was 220.
Right, and so now we're 470. We could have added another, we could have gotten it from 224 up to,
390 something.
yeah. Right, we could have gotten it to about 390.
So maybe that's a proposal, 390 something, kind of split the baby a little bit.
And that could be,
Pass that around to
that's
board
taken-
members.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Probably lets you keep the grill right where it is.
Because I'm not sure that, at least not for me, the shed's not a critical issue. I think the patio was.
I mean, the shed also, I mean, doesn't have a foundation underneath it.
No.
So, I mean, I know you're dealing with the stormwater management, but it doesn't present the same sorts of impermeable stormwater issues that a house does, because the water can still move under it. So I am not nearly as bothered by I'm not particularly bothered by the shed. I think you've got a decent proposal. But
Okay, so-
if we can tweak the patio a bit and,
So
yeah.
can we get a specific number? I mean, what, all right, give us a specific number, I guess.
390 is what he said, right?
Well, I was rounding 390 something, I think would be the right answer.
390 is
Is a good
pretty
number?
close to the number that it would be. That would be taking 80 square feet further off of this patio, which is essentially going from, if the patio, and I don't know the exact dimensions, but if it's 20 feet front to back, that's taking 4 feet off. That means that it would be a 12-foot side yard setback and would meet that requirement of the size of the patio, the 224 that was approved in 2001, plus the additional space the additional lot coverage that was not used at that time.
So Chris is saying that what you're proposing tonight is 27 by 18, which adds up to 486.
Oh, so it is 18. Okay, so the side yard setback would come back about, say, 4.5 feet or so.
Can we somehow condition this, that the architect and Krista get together and work out the details before we pass the resolution?
And I think basically the condition is the submission of final plans which reflect a reduced total patio size of 390 square feet.
Okay,
Not including the walkway, right?
correct.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
And then obviously the draft resolution will send it to you for review just to confirm all those
Yes.
updated figures are correct.
Yeah, the concept is good, and the specific numbers, I think, are good. We can determine what the side yard setback, that was a concern to some of the board members, so it goes from 8 feet to whatever, not 10, but 12 or 12 and a half, right? Because the arithmetic will tend to work out.
Which will work out with that. Okay.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. Okay. And can we have a roll call? Please?
Sure. Vice Chairman Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Loikett?
Yes.
And Ms. Toad?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you very
One
much.
last statement is, please don't move ahead with anything until the resolution is done and
Correct.
all of the permits are issued. Thank you.
We will. Thank you for your endurance on this one.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess, and our chairman will be back if he's not snoring out in the lobby.
Oh, wow. That looks awesome.
Sorry, I'm trying to call the engineer back in. Hard gaveling. Wally, would you mind poking your head out there? Sorry, you're just the last man here on the dais for now. Oh, here we go. Sorry, we got it. You're good. No, you're good.
But don't forget all my parents and drive up.
I'm sorry.
We can't imagine doing it without you, Dipti, so you're good. No worries. All right, next up is 22 Crescent Avenue. You'll join us back up here. Thank you for your patience. It's a lengthy evening, but we'll see what we can do for you.
Cool, excellent. Please raise your right hand. And first, if you could just point the microphone a little bit more towards yourself. Great. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Please state your name, spell your last name.
Inigo Masquiran, M as in Martin, A-Z-Q-U-I-A-R-A-N.
Thank you.
All right, tell us a little bit about your application, and then we'll hand it over to your professional to hopefully do all the heavy lifting for you.
I mean, I think it's fairly simple from my perspective, but it's just building a patio in the back part of the house. And that's about it.
Okay.
I think Prisco's going to be able to explain it much better than me.
There you go, well done. Just
Short.
No, it's beautiful, that's why he's paying you the big bucks. Are there any members of the interested public here for this application? No? Okay, I'll ask a couple more times and expect the same answer. Any questions of the applicant from the board or the engineer? No? Okay, excellent. Well, let's move on to our professional here. I'll swear you in.
Do you swear, if you raise your right hand, do you swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Sure. First name Ciro, middle name Prisco, last name Tarquinio, T as in Tom, A-R-Q-U-I-N-I-O.
Thank you, and can you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards
Sure.
you've appeared before recently?
I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey. I'm a principal of Studio 1200 in Short Hills, New Jersey, and I have a master's degree from NJIT.
3 boards you've appeared before recently?
Millbrook, not Summit, not in front of you.
Good enough. Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials?
We're glad to add Summit to your list of boards, and we'll accept your credentials this evening. You can begin, yep.
Thank you. So I think most of the testimony tonight regarding the patio itself will come from a civil engineer. I just wanted to actually provide some background information about the project and shed some light on the statistics which describe existing conditions, approved conditions, and proposed conditions. So I'll just move on. If you can hear me, I'll move on to these boards quickly. There is work currently happening in the house under an approved construction permit. The work is mostly an interior renovation, but it also includes a side addition on the house, a small side addition of about 134 square feet. And in order to comply for that addition, the owners actually removed a series of non-conforming structures from the property, and I wanted to really talk about those, speak to those structures. And that's what these images are. We had a non-conforming attached one-car garage, one-story, one-car garage on the east side of the property, which was non-conforming both in side yard setback and rear yard setback. That was demolished. This is a front view of that garage. This is a rear view of that garage. We also had a non-conforming deck. This is obviously prior to the owners purchasing the property. A non-conforming deck, non-conforming both in lot coverage and also rear yard setback. And it was quite a tall structure, ranging from 36 to 40 inches above grade. And there was also an attached shed storage structure with a roof built above this deck. So all the structures were removed to sort of create a clean slate and to allow for the small addition on the side of the house, which includes a side entry, a mudroom, and a powder room, really a modest addition to the house. And again, the rest of the work was interior work. So the application in front of you tonight is really just for a rear patio. With the removal of all of those structures, as well as a portion of the driveway and a series of slate walks in the rear of the property was brought into conformance for lot coverage, where the allowed is 35%, and we brought the property below that 35%. And today's variance request is to build a rear patio, which would bring the property above that 35%, but still below the original amount, which was 41%. That's the gist of the introduction, and I think the rest will come from the civil engineer, unless you have questions for me. Brief.
Any questions you have for the architect? I don't know if there's anything that jumps out to you here. Pretty minimal architectural.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to give that context because I think it's important to know that the owners wanted to remove all of these non-conforming structures, and come to you just for the patio.
I do have one question. Oh, were you going to?
Go ahead, sorry.
You probably said this, I was trying to find a piece of paper. So you're asking for a lot coverage of 39.3 and 35% is the maximum permitted. What is it currently?
So currently it's been reduced to 34 and change. Let me just check for 1 second. I think just under 35.
34.9, and it had been
34.9,
40, had been 41.
Correct. So 41%, the pre-existing condition prior to the purchase of the property. Right.
Can I get clarity on that? I'm just.
Sure.
So that was one of our questions anyway. So in the zoning data table, it says existing is 41%, goes to, this is lot coverage relating. The approved lot grading plan from 2021 was 34.9%, and now proposed is 39.3%. Can you
Sure.
define what's going on there?
Absolutely. Okay, so the existing part of the zoning table is the condition that existed prior to the purchase of the property in 2021.
Okay.
So that included all the structures that we removed and all the features that we removed. The approved lot grading plan dated December 9th, 2021 is what's currently happening in construction. And the demolition has already occurred. The rest of the project is still ongoing. So it's really now the current condition, but that's under the approved lot grading plan column. So the site is currently fully in conformance. So now we're asking for additional lot coverage just for the rear patio, essentially.
So the proposed 39.3 includes the proposed patio?
Correct, and actually I should say, it's not just a patio, there is one additional element, which is a set of steps and stepping stones from the existing driveway to the front porch, because there really is no way to get to the front door from the detached garage, the existing detached garage. So those have also been counted in that additional lot coverage that's being requested.
And the other thing is the patio at grade? Or-
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, and the civil engineer will testify to that, but the patio has been designed to be no more than 12 inches above grade.
Thank you.
So really, it's not wrong to think of this as going from 41 to 39.3. It's really not wrong.
Right, this is all very current. I mean, all of these structures came down, well, last year technically now, because we're in January. But yes, in 2022.
What materials are you using for the patio?
The patio will be bluestone. Yeah.
Okay. We'll hold any questions then and look to hear from the civil engineer next.
Great.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening. You can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Yes, John Ferrante, Ferrante.
Thank you. And have you appeared before a board relatively
Not
recently?
this board, but
Okay.
others in the area.
Can you briefly describe your background,
Yes,
experience?
I have a bachelor and a master of science from civil engineering from New Jersey Institute of Technology. Been practicing, I don't want to say it, but many years, but I've appeared in over hundreds of boards throughout the state of New Jersey. I'm licensed in New Jersey and 5 other states. My license is current, and I'm here tonight to present this application for the increase for the patio at 22 Crescent.
Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials?
Won't force you to disclose your years of professional experience, and we'll
All I
accept
can
your.
tell you, at NJIT next year, we qualify as the Golden Highlander, which is 50 years. So.
Very, very distinguished then. We're
It's
happy
been
to
a good
accept your
run.
credentials.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay, with the application, just for the record, the drawings that we were presented were dated, revision A, that were dated in May of 23 of this year. A three-sheet set of drawings. The title sheet has the bulk table, but in essence, without really regard to going through the entire bulk table, we're really here for a lot coverage variance as described by our architect, as well as a setback variance from our patio to the rear yard. I'd like to describe a little bit of the property, only because we received comments from the engineering department and the environmental commission. So in essence, the main house is here, the patio is to the rear. Our neighbor to the south is screened from our property with roughly a 4-foot-high brick wall plus a solid fence, board-on-board fence. Similarly, the neighbors to the east. So the rear yard for this property is essentially a screen. The existing garage also provides additional screen to the rear patio. So the patio, as shown here, is a sort of a flowing geometry patio. Obviously, with regard to the grading and to the drainage, which I described, in essence, the high point of the property is in the southeast corner here, roughly here, and currently all the stormwater flows in a northwesterly direction. In essence, on this side of the garage, so out in that area. So what we did was, in solving the drainage problem, we're collecting all the water from the new patio and into a dry well. We do some minor regrading so that the rainwater from the side of the house is brought around into the dry well, and then obviously back around. So the other, while I'm on this drawing, figure 2, the setback from the patio to the rear yard is 16.9, which I believe I think 40 feet was required. So that's the other.
It's 30 feet, John.
30, sorry,
Yeah,
thank
because
you.
there's a 10-foot allowance for an on-grade patio.
The other comment I wanted to make is that the patio is at grade, because there was a comment to provide testimony that the patio is at grade. You can see the existing grade is 101, and roughly the average grade of the patio is 101.5. So we raised the patio roughly on average 6 inches from the existing grade. In essence, that is the application that from a civil perspective in its entirety. You can see also as our architect indicated, all the demolition that has taken place as part of the December 2021, that has already taken place. The only other item that I want to point out, we visited the site today in preparation for the hearing. This tree is still there, but the arborvitaes in the back were removed. So, in fact, the tree commission had some comment regarding trees, which I'll get into when I cover their specific commentary. The other items I want to point out that there's a generator will be added to the side of the house on the west side, as well as an AC unit, and they will, even though they are not shown here, we were told that that's the proposed location, as well as two small condensing units will be placed in this location. This will probably will be screened as required with landscaping. With that, with the board's permission, I'd like to go through some of the comments that we were asked from the engineering. to provide testimony. I'll cover those.
Just before you do, typically we stipulate that applications that are subject to approval of the board would be conditioned on acceptance of the engineer's letter. Do you find that an acceptable condition? I'll ask the applicant,
We
sorry.
went through the comments, they were good comments, and we were able to address all the comments.
So I heard yes, but let's talk about it.
No, only because we were asked to provide
Of course.
testimony.
Yep, that's right.
Otherwise,
Excellent.
we stipulate that we can.
Excellent. Yep, you may continue, yep.
Okay. With that, there were other comment letters, in essence, but the engineering letter had numerous comments, a total of 19, of which we agree with all of them. There were 5 comments that they wanted to provide testimony. Number 8, they wanted us to confirm that the patio is at grade, and based on the topography of the existing topography and the finished grade elevations they're proposing, we believe that this patio really would meet the requirements for patio at grade. The next one, number 9, figure 2, the approved disturbance of 1,610 square feet, and we are asking for 1,700. That we had a slight 90 square feet increase in the approved limit of disturbance. We had a minor change in the geometry of the disruption. We think that's a de minimis increase, 90 square feet, an increase in the impervious disturbance area. Number 10, the applicant is proposing to increase the building coverage. I think we've discussed that, but we're still, our architect has covered that. So building coverage, we're still under, and so we meet that requirement. And number 11, the applicant is proposing to increase the impervious coverage, 639 square feet for the patio, and we're mitigating that increase in impervious with the dry well. Speaking of the dry well, one of the comment from Collier Engineering wanted us to increase the dry well slightly because the way we've calculated the dry well, we took advantage of the headspace above the invert to the top, because as the dry well would overflow back into the gravel area that we're providing at the edge of the driveway to collect stormwater. So we feel that with that, the dry well is properly sized. However, we're more than happy to increase it to provide additional storage for the dry well. And that's basically it as far as the engineering comments.
Let's see what Dipti says. Dipti, did he miss anything? You disagree? Anything?
Yeah, no, thank you for your feedback on that. No, the couple of things, and if I apologize, some may have not been stated in the report. I am noticing them currently. So one thing is in the report is, can you provide testimonies that there is no steep slope disturbance?
Correct.
Yeah, no?
No steep slopes.
No, okay. And then the other thing is, typically the dry wells are spaced 10 feet away from the property line. I noticed the dimension of 9 feet. Would you be able to revise that?
Yep,
Yeah.
we can move the dry well away from the property line closer to this area.
Okay.
It was still away from the root zone of that existing tree.
Okay. And I guess my last thing is, there are some existing elevations shown here of where the patio is, about 100, give or take, 100-foot elevation. So you have new proposed elevations of 104 all the way down to 101.5. So how is that aligning with the patio being at grade and just making sure we follow all that? So.
Yeah, in essence, just to go through the patio is obviously this geometry, but the 102 is really at the edge of the existing house, and 104 is we have a few steps to the door.
Okay.
So that obviously is higher, but it's only for the steps to access the door, the rear door. But the entire patio is considered a grade based on the elevation that we're providing. So we had the high points. So all the water from the patio will be collected a gravel trench at the edge, and then obviously that water is brought to the dry well so that we minimize overland flow from the dry well.
I have nothing further.
What about the dry well size? Should they increase it, or?
Yes.
They should?
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Not a problem. Do we have any recommendation on a percentage increase, or how should we provide guidance to them?
Sure. Let's see. What is the current size? Give me one second.
Yeah, if I may, to help with that question, the dry well, based on our sizing, we calculated, based on the increase in impervious area, that 159.8 cubic feet would be required, and we're at 161.6. So typically, a good engineering design would be to provide some of the factor of safety of, let's say, 10 to 20%
Yeah.
is reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, that should cover my calc. Yeah.
Do
the
we need
numbers.
this to be conditioned?
I would say
Andy,
20%.
or-
Okay.
Was that specifically noted that it will be increased in the engineering report?
We asked for it to be increased. I can reread
So
the
then-
exact statement.
Right.
Based on our review, the dry well and stone capacity will need to be increased to meet the storage
Okay, so
requirement.
compliance with the conditions of the engineer's memorandum will cover that one.
Testimony suggests that the increase would be 20% over what's originally proposed.
Correct.
Okay. Almost there, Andy. Excellent. Okay, thank you, Dipti. Any
you.
questions from the board then for the engineer? I don't think there's any follow-up on the driveway history. I don't know if you want to speak to the paragraph of driveway history that was noted in the memo.
sorry?
The driveway history in the memo? I don't know if that's something
I-
you want to
that's-
discuss.
we-
There's no
I
action to
would
be
be, I
taken
would
there.
practically reading that portion of the.
It's very interesting, but I don't think there was an action to be called from that. So
There was a permit in the past, and basically no action is recommended there.
Krista didn't spend too many hours researching that, but anyhow.
I
Any
think she
questions?
went to the archive.
She may have, right? She did.
Chris's brain is the archive.
That's right. Any questions from the board for the engineer? No? Okay. Anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you. There were some environmental commission comments, suggested comments. I don't know if you want
If
to.
you'd like to speak to them, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I think the stormwater management was the key to, we're agreeing to provide the additional safety factor there, and I think that would address those.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Yep. And I believe that's your last expert witness. Excellent. I'll offer again, any members of the interested public, the opportunity to ask questions or provide commentary. And your uniform head shake to the no, so I think we're good. Anything you'd like to say in conclusion?
No, I mean, we purchased this property in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. That's part of the reason why we haven't moved in yet. So anyway, I mean, thank you for your attention.
Excellent, thank you. Andy, as per conditions, what does your yellow notepad say?
Just the one, compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum.
Okay, excellent. Who'd like to begin deliberations? Scott's eyes. Scott, you want to start us?
I think this is an entirely reasonable request and application, and I think it was Tom that said it best. If you go from the original and not even think about the state of the coverage based on the demolition, then this looks all that more appealing to me as an application. So with that, I could be in favor of this.
And I'll note that you removed the deck, but essentially you're lowering your outdoor living space. And the condominiums on Norwood are so much higher than the property. I mean, nobody's going to see you. There's certainly going to be, no consequences to your neighbors. So to that extent, you're reducing or eliminating any negative impact on the neighbors as you live outdoors, and I can certainly support this. I just wonder how you've got 3 houses on the street undergoing construction all next to each other. How do the folks across the street deal with it?
They seem okay. We've been checking with them.
Okay.
Somebody grab the low-hanging fruit of stormwater management. Come on,
Yeah.
it's hanging out
Oh.
there. Who wants
Oh,
to
no,
speak to that?
no, the other thing I did want to say is that I love that that you're maintaining the facade because you've got, it's not the twin, the sibling across the street.
Yes,
I mean, they
it's
speak to
essentially,
each other.
yes.
And I thought that was really cool.
Any comments from this side of the dais? These guys are working awful hard tonight. No? All right, I'll bring it to a close. This isn't very complicated. My daughter's a first grader at Lincoln Hubbard, so I drop her off at the school door right across the street, and I have been waiting for so long to see this make progress, and I'm excited to see a very thoughtful application come before the board. With respect to, I'll grab the stormwater management element here. We're grateful that you and the civil engineer are responding positively to our engineer's comments, and if anything, oversizing. That's a clear positive impact for the application that you've offered. But then also with respect to the prior structures, the decking, obviously, this, if anything, is going to minimize the visual impact and hopefully impact just generally on surrounding properties. So with that, too, I could support the application and would request a motion to approve with the condition as noted. Any motions?
I'll move.
All right, a second. Liz? Stephanie?
Okay. Chairman Spur?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Loikis?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right. The eminently patient Mr. Mazza. Would you like to join us? How's your computer?
Up and running.
All right, excellent.
You
We'll
can
start with
please
swearing you in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Christopher Mazza, M-A-Z-Z-A,
Thank you.
58 Hobart Ave, Summit.
Excellent. All right. Mr. Mazza, tell us a bit about why you're here tonight.
Perfect. I'll try to make it quick as well.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining today. And basically, maybe I'll just start with the current condition and current structure of the house. That'll kind of help us paint a picture of what the additions will be going forward. So currently, if you look at the front of the house, the left side is basically one story, which has a secondary entrance to it as well. So it has a walkway up from the street, secondary entrance, which from the prior owner was used for business purposes. So I think there was like an office in the back, they had a waiting area and a bathroom as well. So left side of the house, more on one story. The rest of the house is 2 stories with bedrooms upstairs. In the rear of the house, there is a 3 Seasons room that doesn't have any insulation. It doesn't have any heating or plumbing or anything, so it's really chilly right now and is proposed to come down and then be built back up. So rear of the house on the bottom floor is a 3 Seasons room. On top of it, I wouldn't say on top of it, but similar area, there is a very small bedroom currently, which is 7 by 11. So it's very hard to even call it a bedroom or get like a twin bed in there. And then currently, we have the master bedroom above the garage, because that's kind of where the only additional bathroom is as well. So it's kind of an interesting house, and what we're proposing to do is basically remove the 3 Seasons room in the back, because basically it's pretty dilapidated as it is right now and needs to come up to current standards. It's going to be a 2-story addition in the rear of the house. That's going to basically help us with the 2 problems, is one, expanding that very small bedroom to a reasonable size. We can actually put some beds in there and utilize that space on top of the bottom addition as well. And then also where the 1-story is, building on top of that to get some extra bedrooms. And we have 2 kids now, expecting another one, so we need some space so we can move the master bedroom actually into the actual part of the house from the garage, and then have some adequate bedrooms for the kids as well. So that's kind of the proposed plan, I think. With, I think, a couple of variances. One is the building coverage ratio and then the floor area ratio as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good synopsis. Any questions from members of the board for the applicants? None? Okay. And I will just note for anyone watching or perhaps reading the transcript, there are no members of the interested public here. Don't take that personally, but it'll help move the application, I think, a little more expeditiously. So with that, I think we'll welcome your professional. We'll swear you in and let you provide your testimony.
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Robert Emmert Jr., E-M-E-R-T.
Thank you, and can you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before recently?
Sure. Registered architect in New Jersey since 1995. I have presented before this board before. Also Livingston, West Orange, Englewood, all on multiple locations.
Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept them once again?
Accept your credentials. Welcome, Mr. Emmert.
Thank you. All right, so just to walk you through, I mean, Chris really has covered it because it's pretty straightforward what we're asking for, you know, with the variances. But the house, the first variance is for the combined side yard. And really, we are on the second floor, on the right side, we are set in from what the first floor garage is. And on the left side, we are just lining up, as he had mentioned, you know, going over the one-story portion. The one thing we did when we got into the design of it is we actually reduced the second floor square footage a little bit because we wanted to match the character of the houses that you see on the street. And several of the houses, just as Chris's houses, has a strong primary center block with secondary wings or L's off the side that are set back from the main block of the house. And his house already does that on the right side. As he was mentioning, the existing master bedroom over the garage steps back. This is the existing, what was previously used as an office area, the one-story. So the proposed addition, second-story addition, we did the same thing there. Is we pushed the second floor back, reduced the square footage a little bit, but just emphasize the primary block. And as you walk down the street, you will see this multiple times on Hobart Avenue. So that, so that sort of guided us with the layouts on the front. Again, the Historic Commission has looked at this, commented, and said they do not have any comments that they feel that it's in keeping with the house, with the neighborhood. And with the rear yard, with the rear elevation, keeping it fairly simple, pushing up, because not only is the second floor bedroom about 7 feet deep, the existing kitchen is a little bit wider than that, but it's a very narrow kitchen, so we're pushing the kitchen back. And again, all with the addition towards the rear, it's all within the existing setbacks, so that's all in compliance.
The rear addition's basically taking place of where the Three Seasons room is right now.
Would you object, Mr. Mazza, to any increased screening along the rear property line? Do you have any plans for that? It was noted by the forester.
So it's interesting because we had a whole bunch of dead trees back there, and we actually recently, this past year, took them all out and put grass, so we actually had some, made it clean. We do have to add 2 additional trees at some point this year, so I would definitely be able to add those in the rear of the house.
Okay.
Screening in terms of trees, or more building up more of a wall during renovation?
Typically trees.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean, the other members of the board can speak to this. I don't think this screams out for a landscaping plan necessarily, but The vision would be in due time for relatively mature
Yep,
trees of some sort, just to visually screen the
definitely,
property.
definitely. Yeah, we had some cleanup work that we did just to remove all the dead stuff, dead bushes and everything. And then I think going forward after the renovation, we'll probably add in some trees and something that looks really nice, hopefully.
So I think we would note that in the resolution.
Okay.
Your intention to add screening to the rear yard.
Yep.
If the board, though, feels like we need to be a little bit more specific or potentially subject that plan to John Linson's review.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm kind of leaning that way only because he wasn't specific what he was looking for, what he
Yeah.
wanted.
Right, he didn't help us too much.
So like no
unfortunately.
objection, but it said like
Right.
something.
With the, when you took down the trees, sorry, just to, because I am on the shade tree commission, the dimension of the trees, and you said you have to replace them.
There
I'm
was
assuming
two.
there were two bigger trees,
Two
and that's why
bigger
you have
trees,
to
yep.
replace them.
Yep.
So already that would fall to, like, under the permit, you would have to replace them with light trees, so probably don't have to include that.
Okay.
But as far as the screening goes,
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah, I suspect, I'm not going to try to read John Linson's mind, but when I see wording like this, I typically assume he means something that visually blocks the view. Maybe that's overstating it, but something more than just trees.
So, what would you call this? I don't know, a
Our-
rear yard screening plan? I don't want to be.
Yeah, so our kind of lesser version of the condition to address this situation in the past has been the applicants will consult with the city forester regarding the planting of trees to screen the rear yard, rather than submission of a full-blown, landscaping plan. So if that's acceptable, we
Yes.
would condition the application on that.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Thanks, Walter. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And part of the proposed, currently we don't have a patio or anywhere to sit outside, so there is a patio proposed as well. We'd like to have some people over at some point in the back.
When it's done, that's right. Mr. Emmert, though, when I look at the variances requested, it's my opinion that side yard percentage, side yard setback, and building coverage could be characterized as de minimis. The big one here is the FAR. Is it your opinion that the lot can accommodate this additional floor area coverage?
Yes, not only can it handle it, as I mentioned before, I think it's in keeping with the neighborhood. Not only in the general, the architecture, massing of the building, but again, just on Chris's block, if you walk down the house across the street, I believe is over 3,700 square feet. You go down a few more houses on Chris's side, 3,300, 3,400. So, and he's proposing less than that. So it's very much in keeping with his very nuclear neighborhood on his block.
And just to follow up on that a little bit, I mean, you were here a year and a half ago or so. I was not here, I did not participate in that hearing. I was absent that night, I guess. But you're coming back for some of the same variances, but expanding them a little bit.
Yeah, so it was right, we had a larger addition in the back, so there was more building coverage ratio on the last time. This is, ever since we lived in it a little bit more, and we were keeping that master bedroom over the garage, but we were like, it can't happen anymore. We need to move it into the functional part of the house and really get away. So just use that as a multi-purpose space. My office will be there or something, and then shifting that over to the master bedroom into the actual part of the house. Yeah. Plus with an additional kid now, probably need another bedroom.
Do you know if the lot was a simpler shape, like a rectangle? Would FAR still be an issue?
Let's see if we square it off a little bit.
Yeah, well.
You're saying if it went, yeah.
It was 124 by 90. Get my calculator. Take out 124 by 90 and
11,160.
alright. And the FAR is
31.
25 times that 0.25.
So it's like 2,800.
2,800. So the answer is it would still be an issue.
Still be, but less.
But it, yeah, but less of an issue. It is an interesting shaped lot.
Yes.
Because that's what question I had for Krista is just how do I figure the rear yard setback on this? She gave me guidance.
It's angles.
Picked apart the architectural testimony. We didn't talk about engineering just yet. Firstly, would you accept as a condition of the resolution acceptance of the engineer's letter?
Yes.
Excellent.
So I think there was one comment in there about the disturbance, and I actually have a new set of plans which updated the footnote.
Okay.
It's the actual disturbance would be the 30, 34.
Okay, let me just, okay, the one that was actually noted on the plan, that's fine, yeah, that was our only
That was really the
major
only question.
comment, we don't
Okay.
have any questions.
Anything about the stormwater management? I think there was a note in there about proposed stormwater management improvements.
We were saying to add any pipes, incoming pipes and details, just for clarity on the plans, nothing more.
Excellent. Anyone questions about engineering? No? Okay. Excellent. Mr. Emmer, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I think it's fairly, straightforward addition. I think, as I said, I think it's very much in keeping with the character of the block that he's on, and provides for his needs.
Excellent. I will note again, there are no members of the interested public here to offer questions or comments. So with that, Mr. Maslow, we'll let you have the final word. Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think it's all been said, and really it's going to improve the functionality of the house, I think, and improve the neighborhood. And like Robert said, just really keeping with the street and, and the size as well. I think even with the additions that we're proposing, we're still probably one of the smaller houses on the street as well, so.
Excellent. Thank you. Andy, I believe the only condition, we have two conditions?
We have two conditions
That's
on
right.
this one. First is our usual compliance with those noted in the board engineer's memorandum. And second is, as we discussed, the applicant will consult with the city forester regarding plantings in the rear yard to add screening.
Okay. Who would like to begin the deliberations? I'm not going to look over here. I want over here. Liz?
Never been last time, we were that in the hallway. I think, first of all, I thank you for coming back before doing the construction and doing with it.
Didn't want to go the first round.
Thank you very much.
So it makes more sense to make a usable property. You're right, it's a strange lot compared to all the others. And it might be a smaller house, but you have a great location. So, I would not be opposed to approving this because it is just a minor update to your home. It's more usable with a new child on the way.
Okay. Before I pivot to Mr. Mullen and Mr. Loikitz, any other further comments?
I really support this application. It's minor, and the only one is the far a little bit exceeding, but still it's acceptable for that certain location. So I support it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mullen. All right, Mr. Mullen was giggling over there. You have to speak now.
Oh.
What was on your mind?
Well, no, I was reading through the resolution, and I noticed that I actually moved to approve it the last time.
Your
So
beards
you
are
have
all
to
over
now.
it.
Clearly I'm enthusiastic about your project. No, I echo Liz's comments. I very much appreciate you coming back and asking to change it before you built the thing. And I think this makes all the sense in the world. It makes it more functional, and I think the use and the functionality of the property was the primary motivation the first time. So I think the second time around, it's just as supportable. So I'm in favor.
I would call attention just to stormwater management improvements, your willingness to address the screening comment from the forester. Each of those help to address any potential negative impact around surrounding properties, so we're grateful for that. The HPC's comments in the scheme of comments from the HPC was favorable, frankly. So we're grateful to see that. And then I would also recognize I call it irregular lot, and how that impacts necessarily what is practical on that property. For those reasons, I could support the application and would welcome a motion to approve with the conditions as noted.
So moved.
Mr. Mullen, a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Stephanie?
Okay. Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Ms. Newell. Yes. Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
and Mr. Loikis.
Yes.
Excellent. Congratulations again.
Thank you. I have an updated grading plan that,
Stephanie's your person.
All right.
It may not be right now to do that, but if you can
Got
contact
it.
her maybe tomorrow, she'll be happy to help.
we're best friends.
Excellent. That's right. Awesome. Let's move through just our remaining business here. Mr. Mazza and Mr. Emmert, you're welcome to leave.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. First, we're going to do
Congratulations on the addition.
the addition, that's right. Minutes for approval, Stephanie?
Kid or
Can we do a voice vote for it?
Roll call.
Oh, a roll call?
Sorry, did you say minutes or for the rest?
Minutes.
You said
Minutes, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, voice vote.
Okay. So can we get a motion to approve the minutes from December 22nd? Sorry, okay.
Liz, a second?
I'll move.
Ms. Toth?
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect.
Resolutions?
All right, so we have 58 Beverly. This is ZB 22-2160. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Malay, Ms. Toth, Ms. Sager, and Mr. Gonzalez. Would someone like to move that one?
I'll move it.
Okay. Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Ms. Newell. Yes. Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Ms. Sager,
Yes.
and Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. The next one we have is 113 Hobart. This is ZB-22-2158. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Malay, Ms. Toth, Ms. Sager, and Mr. Gonzalez. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Chairman Spur?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
Okay, so moved. The next one we have is 266 Oak Ridge. This is ZB-22-2154. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Malay, Ms. Toth, Ms. Sager, and Mr. Gonzalez. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'll take Ms. Newell, right? Okay. Chairman Spur?
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Our last one we have is 743 Springfield. This is ZB-22-2156. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Malay, Ms. Toth, Ms. Sager, and Mr. Gonzalez. Can we get a motion?
Second.
Okay. Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Ms. Sager,
Yes.
and Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Final item of business is approval of our 2023 and a little bit of 2024 meeting dates. Those were circulated to the board, adjusted based upon potential conflicts with city calendars, religious holidays, you name it. We looked at it. And with that, I would invite a motion to approve the 2023 calendar.
So moved.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Mullen.
Gee, it's on the script.
Yeah, sorry, just
Mr. Mullen.
Okay. Can we do a voice vote, or we? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
With
carries.
that, we are adjourned. Happy reorg all.